Hey guys, welcome back to our channel, 6 Miles to Go. It is Chelsea here and I am so glad you are here. If you're new, I am a wife and mom of 4, and on my channel I have been sharing about our journey with virtual schooling and some about our family's life and travels that we've done. But things are going to be changing. I have a huge announcement for you in this video that will affect our channel and I can't wait to share it. To take this rest stop with you, and sometimes life just feels like it just keeps going and going and going and you're running on a treadmill that you can't keep up with, and so it's just nice to kind of take times to rest and relax. If you have been watching our channel for a while, you may have noticed that our intro is brand new. That is because we had a little incident with our external hard drive that basically erased all of our videos, pictures, and some of my work documents. So the reason why our channel is called 6 Miles to Go is because back in 2016, I was thinking about how our life was like a road trip, which was kind of ironic because our last name is Miles. And we have experienced many twists and turns and detours and mountains and valleys in our family's life. And we are currently in a season that is new and unknown and kind of like a detour from maybe the original plan that I had set out. So in typical road trip fashion, I experienced a detour. Well, first it was a delay that ended up becoming a detour. So on Sunday, I was trying to get some work done and I had finished a bunch of stuff for my job and I was editing videos. I needed to record some audio and my kids had just been energetic all day. I'm talking about bouncing off the walls. My husband had left to visit with his mom and take her out to dinner for her birthday. And I was trying to, like I said, record this audio, and my kids were upstairs, the girls were upstairs, running around and screaming. And so I turned to tell them to be quiet for like the millionth time. And when I did that, my son kicked my laptop off of my lap, and I went to grab it. And unfortunately, I got the laptop, but the external hard drive fell and it broke. And it broke beyond repair, and that had all of our pictures, all of my video footage for the videos I had for these upcoming weeks, and a bunch of work documents that I needed over these next few weeks. And so, as you can imagine, I was extremely devastated. I was in tears. It was just not the best day ever. And so my husband said something to me. He said, think of this as a fresh start. And that was a very positive spin on it, but I'm not a very positive person sometimes when I'm in a bad mood, and so I kind of did not want to hear that. But after thinking about it for a while and after God kind of softened my heart, I realized that he was right. It was a fresh start, and that kind of fits in with the season in life that we are in that I'm going to be sharing with you. There are 3 parts to this announcement. These are big things that are going to affect our family. It is a scary season of life, but it is an exciting one. I have to share with you guys that for the last few years, I feel like I've operated very much in fear. Some life things happened to me in my 20s that were, for me, very devastating, and it caused me to kind of go into this shell of I don't want to do anything that's going to change my life dramatically. And so that's helped me to, I don't know if maybe hindered me in making very safe decisions and maybe not following necessarily what God was calling me to do. And in 2019, I ended up getting baptized and rededicated my life to Christ, and God just kind of shed all that baggage of fear off of me at that point and began working at my heart. And this is the first time in years that I have made a decision on complete and total faith, not having everything worked out, not really having that roadmap of this is where we're going. We are veering off on this exit and just going to go where it takes us. But, I just feel in my gut that I know this is what God has called us to do. So the first thing is, you guys, we have decided to homeschool. Completely different than what I thought was going to be happening. So when we started thinking about this beginning in November and December, what are we going to do with the kids' schooling after this virtual year? I was leaning very much towards private school. I just did not see myself as a homeschool mom, which is crazy because I was homeschooled and I actually liked being homeschooled. But I just didn't see myself as that mom, At at the end of February, beginning of March, my husband and kids went to go look at a private school. I was working that evening and I didn't want to take off work. And when I got home, I asked him, how did it go? And first it was my husband, and he was going into how it went, and he just didn't seem really energetic about it and really like stoked about it like I thought they would be. And then he started saying, maybe we should look into homeschooling. It just seems like that makes sense, which was completely shocking to me because my husband just never seemed really into the idea of homeschooling, but he seemed really positive about that. And then after my husband and I kind of discussed some of the options, we sat our girls down. And in our family, I like to include our daughters in a lot of the decisions we make because these are things that affect their life too. And especially with this is their education. And so I sat them down and I was like, okay, here are the options. You can go back to school next year just the way you did before at a public school. You can go to private school. You went on the tour, you kind of got a feel for that. And I explained to them that in the private Christian school, they would have Bible. It would be more of a Christ-centered education, and the class sizes would probably be smaller in that environment. Or you can homeschool. And I left homeschool last because I just figured that especially my oldest daughter would just not want to do that at all. Because when we told her we were virtual schooling, she was not happy about it at all. She wanted to go to school. For the last few years, my daughter London, my 7-year-old, she's wanted to homeschool since kindergarten. She's asked me could we homeschool, and I wanted her to try going to public school. But Naomi, my 10-year-old, was just like, no, I don't ever want to homeschool. You guys, when we sat down, literally unanimously, they all screamed with excitement, I want to homeschool, and my mouth like literally hit the floor. So not only was my husband on board with this idea, but then my girls were too. Especially my oldest, that completely floored me, and honestly, she hasn't even had the easiest time with virtual schooling. It's been kind of a nightmare. She's had 4 teachers this year, and most of them seem unwilling to teach anything, and so it's just been me and her going through a lot of this stuff. And so I was like honestly so surprised that she didn't want to go back to school. So then, it was a matter of me, kind of accepting, okay, God, like I see you opening this door. And it wasn't just that, there were other things that kind of showed me that, okay, God, this is where you want for us to go. And I had that gut feeling. I don't know if you guys ever get that, but as I'm praying about things, sometimes God doesn't come to me in like this audible voice where he's like, do this, Sometimes it's just that like deep gut feeling that you're just like, I have to do this. Like this is what I need to be doing. And that's how homeschooling was. And even though I did not see myself as a homeschool mom, honestly, as I've ordered curriculum and as I've been reading up on it, I'm really excited to spend this time with my kids. So how will this affect our channel? Well, instead of covering virtual schooling, we will be covering homeschooling, and that will include my homeschooling schedules. Right now I'm in the research phase. You guys, I've been reading so much about homeschooling in Ohio. I'll be sharing some of that with you, and also sending, like when I send in the forms to the school to notify them we're homeschooling, I'll kind of show you what I did with that. And then I'll be doing some curriculum unboxing. I will share with you the curriculums that we're going to be going with this year. I've selected most of them, but I'm still working on history, Bible, and foreign language. Those are the 3 that I really need to look into. And then I will do an unboxing so that you can see the curriculums that we're going through. I'll share day-to-day life with you, tips and tricks that I find along the way, and all that good stuff. So we'll be kind of transitioning our channel into more of homeschooling versus virtual schooling. So that's really exciting. Number 2 to this big announcement is, so we went to Florida. If you haven't seen our video from our Florida trip, definitely check it out. I got some great footage of us fishing and but anyways, before we went on that trip, I've just been praying about what God wants for us for the future. And I know I'm a weirdo, and you're probably gonna think I'm so like strange when I tell you this, but ever since I was like a late teen, I have always come up with a 5 to 10 year plan, and then every year I come up with goals for that year. And I used to have like a whole vision board in my room, and I would update it just so I could focus on like where I was going. I've always been a really driven person. Like, it's just my personality. I try to tone it down, but Alan can tell you that. A lot of times I'm like on 10 with stuff like that. So now I've kind of cut it down to 5 years. 10 years just seems like really ambitious to me, just because I don't know, I'm kind of at the age where 10 years just a lot's going to be changing, and my goals are different at this point in life. So I've been doing 5-year chunks. And so we sat down, Alan sat down with me. He's such a good sport. Like he's more of a fly by the seat of your pants type guy, you know. He's not a real big planner. He's kind of like, we'll take it as it comes, or we'll take it as it comes. Me, I'm like, no, I need to know what I'm doing every minute of every day of every year, you know. That's why I think, you know, me operating in faith is like so hard. So I sat down with him. I'm like, okay, we're going to come up with our 5-year plan. And so we wrote down some goals. One of those goals was buying land and building our dream house. Like that's a part of our 5-year plan. And so that's a goal that we are currently working towards. Well, before our Florida trip, you know, of course I'm praying over these things. And as I'm packing, I just hear this trip is going to be life-changing. It's going to change your perspective. So we drive down there and I'm looking around and I'm like, you know, I could see myself, or not just myself, but our whole family living outside of Ohio, moving outside of Ohio. I began talking to my husband about it. And my husband really loves his job and he doesn't want to leave his job, and I don't blame him. He has a great job. And so I kind of just put that in my back pocket. We drove back home, you know, we're living life. And my husband comes to me and he goes, well, he's currently remote. And he said, we just found out today that some of these positions are going to be all remote. And so we won't be required to go in at all. And I will find out at the end of May what position I have. And if I have an all remote position, you know, they'll have us sign new contracts and I will be all remote, which means we can live anywhere in the United States. And I was like, okay, God, you know, I feel it's just like, you know, when you're in the season, you feel God moving and you're like, okay, I see you're kind of, you know, aligning things here. And I don't know if we're going to move, you know, to another state at this point. I'm just going to follow God wherever he leads us. But I don't know. I just have this strong feeling that door may be opening. And so that is really exciting that, you know, at the end of May, Alan's going to find out whether he's all remote or not. And if he is all work from home, you guys, we're going to start our journey in finding land in wherever God leads us, which could be another state. I was listening to Waymaker on my way home from work just right now, and I just love that song. You know, even when I think it says I can't see it, you're moving, even when I can't feel it, you know, and I was definitely in that season. I was like, I can't see God moving, I can't feel God moving, like I'm just all alone, I've just screwed up so bad. And now to be in this season where it's like, I don't know what's gonna happen, but I for sure know one thing: God is moving. It's just so invigorating and so exciting. And that's why I was so excited to share this with you guys. And the third and final thing that kind of goes with this big announcement, you guys, is I am walking away from a 30-year investment in a sense. So I have danced for 30 years. You heard that right. 30 years I have danced, not taking 1 year off. Even the year I took off of teaching, I was still in classes. And to be honest, like I'll still probably be in classes after I stopped teaching. But yeah, I have been teaching for I've been dancing for 3 decades and then teaching for a little over half of that time. And that has like consumed my life. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Like, I love the arts. I love dancing. For years of my dance career, my dance was worship, and that was just one of the best experiences ever. And so when I kind of felt God, like, all right, Chelsea, we're moving out of this season, I was resistant. You know, I'm like, God, like, we've been doing this for 3 decades. Like, you have used me in so many ways through dancing. Like, can't we just stay here, because this is really comfortable? Like, I know this, I've been doing it for a long time. And I was kind of having one of those conversations with God on my way to work. One evening I was driving, I was listening to the radio, and I just heard, you know, I'm doing a new thing in you, a new thing. Quit looking in your rearview mirror. You do that a lot. You're looking behind you at what I've done before. You need to focus ahead. Just like when you're driving, you're not looking in your rearview mirror. In life, you need to stop looking in the rearview mirror. I'm doing a new thing. And I just kept hearing that, a new thing, you know, focus on the new. We're not going back to what we did before. We're going to do something brand new. And so I was like, all right, Lord. And then the verse came up, Isaiah 43, but forget all that. It is nothing compared to what I am going to do. For I am about to do something new. See, I have already begun. Do you not see? I will make a pathway through the wilderness. I will create rivers in the dry wasteland. And so as this was being read on the radio, I will make rivers in your wasteland was kind of playing on repeat. And it was like, God was like, meditate on that. Because guys, it's not easy to leave dancing or teaching because that's my job. And at this point, like, I don't know where God is leading me next. And that's really hard because we have bills to pay, we have kids to feed, and so all of these things are kind of swirling in my mind. And I'm like, oh, God, how are we going to do this? And every time I ask that question, that little phrase kept playing in my mind. I will make rivers in your wasteland. And then I just had to shut myself up and say, you know what? God will provide. In the spaces where I'm looking and I'm like, this is not going to work, God will provide. And I was listening to a sermon today, and in the sermon, she said, reasoning disrupts discernment. And how oftentimes we try to reason what God wants us to do. And that's where I was at. I'm like, okay, God's calling me to do this, but how is this going to work out? I'm trying to figure it out on my own where we're going with this. But God was giving me discernment, and he, has been leading me for a while to make this move. And I've been scared because it's just so familiar. And, driving to work that day, that was the light bulb moment where I was like, all right, it's done. I've got to focus on the future. I've got to focus on this new thing. I can't focus on what I was doing before, even though it's comfortable, even though I know it, even though it's hard. God is preparing something new for me. And I can't beat myself up about the past because God's forgotten it. He's forgiven me. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the future. I just have to keep reminding myself that because it's hard not to kind of drift back to, but what about, when you feel like God is leading you into something new because it's scary and it's unknown. Well, when God calls us into new seasons, like our new season of homeschooling, possibly moving to another state, and also my career changing, we just know that it's going to be a wild and awesome adventure. We don't know what's in store, but we know it's going to be good because God is good. And I would appreciate your prayers for our family as we go through these seasons, especially me with my career. That's been the biggest thing as of late. I almost feel like God's calling me to be a stay-at-home mom, and I've done it before, but that's a little transition for me. I'll share more about that later. But also, you guys, are you going through a new season of life? Are you going through a change? Is God calling you to do something different and new? Maybe it's homeschooling, maybe it's a new job. I would love it if you shared it in the comments. If you don't want to share details, that's cool. If you want me to pray for you, I will 1000% do that. That's something that God actually called me to do in January, is really to be more active in my prayer life. And so if you drop your prayer request in the comments, or if you share that new thing, I will write it down in my prayer book, and I promise to pray over you, and I hope you'll pray over me. Until next time, everybody, enjoy the road of life.